give me fire, give me that which I desire. Ooh.
Hi, I'm Jim with Redo Banshee Parts and Accessories. Today we're going to talk about why you have no spark. I made a little list here on how to diagnose no spark on your Banshee. There's 8 easy steps. We're going to go through them one by one. We're going to check them to make sure everything is right on here, and we should be able to figure out why you don't have any spark. Okay? The first thing to note is that both spark plugs have to be grounded in order for you to have spark. So if one is in or laying here or grounded and the other one is dangling off over here and not grounded, you won't have any spark. So step number 1, what we're going to look for is we're going to see, do you have a key switch? Okay? If your key switch is up here, some people relocate them to a different spot. Just going to make sure that the plug-in is connected here in the harness. Now this particular model, they've disconnected or bypassed the key. If the key is bypassed on yours as well, you're going to make sure that the black wire and the red wire with a black stripe is connected. On the Banshee, this circuit has to be connected in series, looped, to be able to make a spark. If not, it won't spark. So step number 2, do you have TORs on your Banshee? The TOR system is the throttle override system. It's these big things on top of your carburetors, okay? And they have wires coming off. If you have this, we're going to make sure that all the plugins are connected. These plugins have to be connected in the harness, and this box, which is located under the tank, left of the coil, and has a short pigtail here with 3 wires, this has to be connected as well. And also, this bike doesn't have it because it has an aftermarket throttle, but there'll be a wire coming out of the factory throttle and running down, and it has to be connected into the harness as well for the TOR system to function. If the TOR system is eliminated, this box must be unplugged. You must unplug the plug-ins here from the harness and unplug the throttle wires from the harness as well. So step number 3, we're going to check all the connections to make sure you don't have a loose connection or broken connection or dirty connection. And the connections are going to be, first one we're going to check out is the coil. We're going to make sure that the orange wire and the black wire are pushed onto the coil back here. If those look good, which they're on, we're going to come over to here and we're going to check the stator plug. The stator plug comes out of the left side of the engine, runs underneath the carburetors. You can't see it because there's everything in the way here. And then comes over and plugs on this side. So you'll have to come over here. The stator plug's going to come out on this side, and it's going to be a white plug, or it could be a round plug with a black rubber piece around it. It's going to have 4 wires, a white with a green stripe, white with a red stripe, green, and red. All right? If that is plugged in and looking good, then you're going to come back and check your CDI box. You're going to have 2 big plugs here. They could look a little bit different. Yamaha changed their plugs several times throughout the years, but you want to make sure that these plugs are both plugged in, not broken. If those all look good, we're going to run over to step number 4, and we're going to inspect the harness. We're going to inspect a spot in the harness that's common to be burned. Most people, or a lot of people, will run their wiring along this frame rail here, and it can come in contact, the wire harness here can come in contact with the pipe, and it can burn. It'll burn through the tape, it'll burn through the insulation on the wires, and sometimes it can melt the wires together anywhere from about here to back here. Check your wire harness to make sure that you don't have any burned wires. If that looks good, then we can move on to the next step. If you do have burned wires, you need to separate them individually, put them back together, tape them up, solder them together if they're broken all the way. Make sure that none of them are touching, because that will be a direct short. If that all looks good, we don't have any burnt wires, we're going to go on to step number 5. We're going to check for a mechanical problem. That's going to be on this side. We're going to check to make sure that the flywheel is on, it's tight, it hasn't broken, the keyway hasn't sheared so that it's just spinning around in there. And we're also going to check to make sure that the tabs on the flywheel are coming in contact correctly with the pulse coil that's in here, and the distance, the gap, is correct. This is not off, of course, so you can't see what I'm talking about, but when you pull this off, you'll just make sure that there's no problems with your flywheel. If the flywheel's on, the distance between the pulse coil and the flywheel tabs is correct, then we'll move on to the next step. Step number 6 is we're going to test the stator. And that's pretty easy to do. It takes an ohm meter, and I have a video on how to test stators online as well, so that'll be another video. But what you'll do is disconnect your stator plug right here, and you'll just ohm test these wires. That'll be another video, so look that up online as well. That's how you test your stator. If the stator tests good, then you'll move on to the next step. If it's bad, replace the stator. Step number 7, you're going to replace the CDI box. So grab one off your buddy's bike or buy a new one, bolt it on, plug it in, see if it sparks. Okay. And step number 8 is replace the harness. If you've tried all this and nothing's working, you may have a broken wire in the harness. They're hard to find. Harnesses are inexpensive, so just replace your harness and you may be able to find the problem. If you'll notice, I don't talk much about the coil. The coils fail very rarely, so that problem does not hardly ever happen. It does happen, but it's so rare that I'm not going to talk about it on this video. I'm going to check all these other steps first before we check that. If everything else is working, you replace the harness, you've checked all your connections, you've checked your stator, you still don't have any spark, then put a coil on it. But that should be what you need to find out why you have no spark. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it. You can find us online at Redo Banshee Parts and Accessories on Facebook and at www.redo-parts.com. Thank you. Have a good day.